Trinity Bellwoods by Alyssa Racco. I have chosen to do my mapping project on Trinity Bellwoods because of its importance to me. I spend most of my free time in Trinity Bellwoods and I'm currently looking to purchase property there. Trinity Bellwoods Park gets its name because the park was the original location for Trinity College, which today is one of University of Toronto's main colleges. It was itself named after the Holy Trinity in the Anglican faith. We will get to how important the Anglican faith is for the naming and area in the original construction of this park. Here's an interactive map from Snapchat. The map allows you to look around the area by dragging your finger or zooming up. The glowing blue areas are spots where Torontonians or visitors have uploaded public stories. As you can see, the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, or CAMH, is on the Trinity Bellwoods Park border. There are so many reasons why I love the Trinity Bellwoods area, especially Trinity Bellwoods Park. All of my favorite restaurants are there. Hello 123, which is a vegan restaurant, Early Bird, which makes the best brunch in Toronto, Tironi, a place I go at least once a week, and they have amazing shopping. The store on Queen is run by two female entrepreneurs who model their own clothes. And during the summer, Trinity Bellwoods Park holds free movie nights every Tuesday. Trinity Bellwoods Park also runs an Adopt a Tree program where people can pay to have new trees planted. There are often cultural events, book fairs, and farmers markets. Also, one of the little alleyways off of the Trinity Bellwoods Park holds an annual Queen West art crawl. At night, there are many bars and shows you can see in the area, and you are central to everything. This project has provided me the opportunity to explore an area that I visit all the time but have never really dug deep into. This map shows the four streets that border the Trinity Bellwoods area and the streets that border the Trinity Bellwoods Park area. Ossington Avenue, Queen Street West, Bathurst Street, and Dundas Street West border the Trinity Bellwoods area, where Dundas Street West, Ossington Avenue, Queen Street West, and Gorval Avenue border Trinity Bellwoods Park area. I will look into all of the street names, their origins and histories, and if their names have changed over time. This will give us a sense of how Trinity Bellwoods is a place of contestation, rebellion, modernity, and an important juxtaposition for modern day Torontonians. Dundas Street. Dundas is named after Henry Dundas of 1742, who was the first Secretary of State for War. He is the last person to be impeached in the United Kingdom and was so for the misappropriation of public money, an accusation he was later acquitted of. He is known for his opposition against the abolition of slavery and for his influence in the expansion of the British influence in India. His motivations and influences granted him the nickname the Great Tyrant and the Uncrowned King of Scotland. Ossington Avenue. This road was built in the 1800s as part of a military road, but is today an arterial road. It was part of the original Dundas Road that led to London, Ontario. This road is named after the Denisons, early landowners in this area, ancestral home in Ossington, Nottingham, England. The patriarch of the English-speaking Anglican Denison family was Captain John Denison. He and his family moved to York, modern-day Toronto, after an invitation from John Graves Simcoe, a name we will come back to. The family was given land grants of approximately 100 acres, some of which include modern-day Kensington Market. Countless parks and buildings were created in the family's name, like Denison Square, Avenue and Creek, Bellevue Avenue, and Dover Court Road. They are remembered for building winter roads where no one else dared to make them. Their fortune was made from renting land to tenants. Queen Street West. One of Toronto's principal thoroughfares, Regal Queen Street used to have a slightly less majestic name. Renamed for Queen Victoria in 1837, The route was originally known as Lot Street for the 100-acre park lots laid out by the Lieutenant Governor of Upper Canada, John Graves Simcoe. Again, we will come back to this name. This 100-acre lot was the same lot that the Denison family was granted. Designed to entice people to settle in the new town of York, the narrow, deep lots provided ample space for a villa with a waterfront view. There were 32 lots like this. Today, Queen West is the local vernacular, which generally refers to the collection of neighborhoods that have developed in the area. Bathurst Street was named after Henry Bathurst, 3rd Earl Bathurst, who was an active member in Parliament for the majority of his life. He recognized the cruelty in slavery but did not support the abolishment of it. The street reaches from East Gwillimbury to Toronto. Gorval Avenue was named after Francis Gore, who was a colonial administrator and a large supporter of the Anglican Church. In the early 1800s, Trinity Bellwoods was part of a piece of land that belonged to Captain Samuel Smith. Samuel Smith was a British Army officer and politician. He sold 1,000 acres of his land to John Strachan. He named 100 of those acres Gorval, after Francis Gore. John Strachan was a devout Anglican bishop who promoted missionary work. Trinity College was built in 1852 on the grounds of today's Trinity Bellwoods Park. The Faculty of Divinity of Trinity College traces its origins to 1841 and the desire of the Diocese of Toronto of the Church of England to take the education of its clergy into its own hands. The result was the creation of the Theological Institution in Cobourg, Canada West, then expected to emerge as the leading city in the section of the Great Lakes, which is now included in the province of Ontario. However, Toronto emerged as a city. Trinity College appeared 10 years later in 1851 in Toronto, as the urban area rising to hegemony in the region instead of Cobourg. The new college incorporated the Cobourg Institution as the basis of its Faculty of Divinity. The college was the handiwork of laypeople and clergy in the Anglican Diocese of Toronto, acting under the leadership of John Strachan, who was the first bishop of Toronto. They intended it to be the Church of England's University in Upper Canada, the new name for the southern portion of today's Ontario. In 1852, the college received a royal charter from Queen Victoria, raising it to the status of university with the right to grant degrees. It became then known as the University of Trinity College. The occasion of Trinity's founding was the secularization of the University of King's College, which had been the first attempt to establish a church university, and which became the University of Toronto on January 1st in 1850. Trinity played an important role in the intellectual, social, and religious life of the region, and as an independent university until 1904. It was then that they amalgamated with the University of Toronto. After 1904, the college has continued to exercise the rights of an independent university with respect to its Faculty of Divinity. Trinity provides for the instruction of its theological students and confers its own degrees in divinity. We can see how the influential figures in the creation of Trinity College on what is now Trinity Bellwoods Park has influenced the naming of streets and mapping in this part of Toronto. Queen Victoria gives rise to the name of Queen Street West. John Strachan is a small side street that runs off of Queen Street West near the opening, or what is considered to be the opening, of Trinity Bellwoods Park. Further, Gorval Avenue, a small street that runs the length of today's Trinity Bellwoods Park, is also named after an important figure in its development, Francis Gore. The creating and what I am calling map labeling, i.e., street creation and naming, was created through the lens of a truly Anglican, powered, and influenced society. This Anglican society is the product of that all-important name I kept on mentioning, John Graves Simcoe. He was the lieutenant governor of what is today Ontario and invited all of these people to establish and develop what is now Trinity Bellwoods under the lens of an Anglican lifestyle. The original buildings of what is now Trinity Bellwoods Park have all been demolished. I will now examine the way of life in the Trinity Bellwoods Park area and compare that to the intended ideals that underpin the creation of this area. Legalization Day. On October 17, 2018, Trinity Bellwoods Park hosted a Legalization Day celebration from 4:20 p.m. to 7:20 p.m. Entrance was free. Screen recording of all the content uploaded to Instagram with the location tag Trinity Bellwoods Park on October 17th.
Yeah. Yeah.
The park is a place of freedom and liberation, open and accepting of all individuals. Anglicanism does not support any form of substance abuse. However, Trinity Bellwoods Park is known for its very liberal and open ideas, including those on the legalized use of marijuana. All the people I spoke to in the making of this project were recorded, and I have transcribed their words and will repeat them in my own voice. This is an anything goes kind of place, so sick. Everyone is accepted here. The land of misfits works. It's chill and crazy. I mean, there are literally crazies here, like from the center. The park is like for dogs, cool people, smokers, and we just vibe. This is Toronto. Gay, trans, bi, anyone part of the LGBTQ+ feels safe here. It's a place of love. The participants all described the park as a safe space for any living thing. However, the creators of the land they stand on stood for slavery, imperialism, colonialism, and did not support same-sex marriage. The acceptance of the LGBTQ+ contests the Anglican belief of same-sex marriage and homosexuality in general. An association of conservative Anglican churches called the appointment of the first openly gay bishop in England in 2003 a major error. However, in 2016, the religion took a stance of openness and acceptance, especially towards the LGBTQ+ community. I want to turn back to a comment made by a participant in the referral to, quote, crazies. The Center for Mental Health and Addiction, or CAMH, backs onto the park and patients often wander it. As a result, there are also incidences that disturb the area as a loving and totally accepting place.
No fucking way. Run, Forrest!
In the video, Spider-Man is cleaning the windows of the candy factory lofts. However, this is not what is meant by crazy. This would arguably be understood as a sign of individuality, and as a person who frequents the area multiple times a week, I would not even turn my head at the sight. The crazy that is labeled crazy is juxtaposed by the artsy, kind of expressive craziness that is a defining factor in the area. It is also interesting to note that this kind of free and loving environment holds some of the most expensive real estate in the city. The candy factory lofts are uber expensive. A one bedroom begins at approximately $1.3 million. The kind of people who can afford this real estate and buy it could also be considered crazy. Then the question remains, why so much why spend so much to be near quote crazies? The ways in which Trinity Bellwoods Park is represented on social media seems to juxtapose itself. There are the sides that represent it as a beautiful nature rich park with affluent people who are smiling, drinking coffee, and have dogs with them. On the other hand, there are videos that show substance abuse, liberalization, and a very accepting community. However, as a person that frequents the area, I would say that both of these are very accurate descriptions and representations of the park. In Brian Smith's article about mapping, he says, by design, maps necessarily lie. He conceptualizes it in two ways. First, maps have to lie given cartographic constraints that are unavoidable in practice. As he argues, to avoid hiding critical information in a fog of detail, the map must offer a selective, incomplete view of reality. A consequence of this is the exclusion of particular features and the inclusion of others, a process that involves the judgments of the cartographer. I think my findings through the use of social media and public stories and public posts combats this idea because there is no limit to what people are posting. The social and knowledge construction through the social, I think, often combats this kind of written knowledge is everything, and in this particular case, what the map shows is all that there is. I don't care. It's not that now. This place is rewriting that. Wow, who knew? You can't tell today. On page 120 of his article, Brian begins to promote the idea of questioning. He says, as many social studies scholars have argued, particularly those exploring the necessary role of social and political critique through citizenship, education needs to be geared towards the focusing of critical faculties of students on questioning patterns of injustice. I think that the most accessible way for students to do this in today's society is through social media. And I hope that this project has shown that social media presents multiple views of what is going on. The locals don't seem to care because that is not their reality. What they know Trinity Bellwoods Park to be is different than what the history says it is. A few days ago, while I was in Trinity Bellwoods Park, I tried to pay attention to the smells I was smelling while I was sitting there. There are so many different things going on in that park. It's hard to pinpoint what's going on. But there are some maps, smell maps of Toronto, that have pinpointed certain smells in the area, and there are discussion forums where people talk about the different smells. I think that a smell map of Trinity Bellwoods Park would be dependent on the season, and now that the legalization of marijuana is in effect in Toronto, the smells in that area have drastically changed. I love this project because I got to learn more about an area that I never really paid attention to, other than topically what was there and like how I could access the fun and entertainment side of it. I think an interesting thing it can do or experiment with in the future is add to the smell maps of Trinity Bellwoods Park and try to create a place where people can express what they smell in relation to other sensory experiences. I realize that this project just touches the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, of what is going on here and the potential for mapping. Thank you for listening.